So I'd like to start out with the idea of what failure is. It looks something like this. Just short of it. And the reason I wanted to start with that is because this is a significant number. The Institute for Ongoing Corporate Learning in Washington, D.C. every year analyzes what you guys are doing right now in this moment. And that is trying to increase your knowledge on industry and specific data and information. And every year they come up with the same horrific statistic. And that is that within 30 days, 85% of you will forget anything you've done at this meeting. Seriously, 85%. Or think of it like this. You'll forget 85% of the new knowledge that you are trying to acquire during these small periods of time between rain and sunshine here. So what does that mean? That means that if you're driving down the street, you have $100 in your hand, and you roll down the window, and you just start flinging out dollar bills until all you have left in your hand are $15. $15. 15% effectiveness. And this goes on and on and on. It's been this way for the last 10 years of analyzing ongoing learning. And that's not the sad part, is that we continue to only get 15%. The sad part is that we know why. And the first reason is we have too much stuff. This is what the agenda for most meetings looks like. It's filled with things. One of the brilliant parts about working with IIAB, both in California, this is my 6th or 7th Big I meeting that I've had the honor of participating in for different branches of the organization, is that you guys don't do that. So you're not part of the failure element of the 3 pieces of failure. One of them you don't have, because you guys you kind of group your learning in a small bucket in the morning, and then you release everybody to having fun activities as they go along. So you're not really burdened with the too much stuff. We call this the fire hose effect, this too much aspect of stuff. And what it is it's like if I took a fire hose and I hooked it up and I told you, would you come here a minute? I'd like you to take a sip out of the end of this. And I haven't turned it on yet. And you stick your mouth right near the end of the fire hose, and I turn it on at 3,300 pounds per square inch, and it knocks every tooth in your mouth completely out of your head. It kind of looks like this. And it's ridiculous. So there's the first failure point, is 1, too much stuff. The second failure point is the big A. Nobody holds you accountable for anything. Nobody picks up the phone and calls you a week after you're back in your office and you're in the whirlwind of your daily activity and goes, hey, Mary? Yeah, it's Steve. What are you doing new this week? And you go, what? Well, what are you doing new? What new thing that you learned are you doing now? Well, nothing yet. I just got back, right? You're in the whirlwind. No one holds you accountable for any new thing, period. So there's the second problem you have. The third problem is even bigger. So everybody make a fist, turn to the person next to you and try to get them to open your fist. Just try to get them to open it. Stop. Why are you resisting? Why would you not let them open it? I didn't say make a fist as tight as you can. I just said our natural inclination to new is always resistance. So the third piece of the failure puzzle, too much stuff, who's accountable, is that you are resistant to new stuff. You don't have a lot of space in your head for something. How many of you know your social security number? Raise your hand. How many of you know your driver's license number? Raise your hand. Why in the hell would you know your driver's license number? It's right in your pocket. Why have you take your driver's license number out of your head and give me that space for 90 minutes? I'll take that space. We store the weirdest things in our head. All the time. I need space so that you'll stop this ridiculous resistance to a new idea. Imagine if Da Vinci was resistant to a new idea. It's ridiculous. We need to be open to new ideas. So make a softer fist as we go along, right? So let me give you one of the prime ideas. The prime idea is this program is about you. I don't care. I'm not in your industry. I do a lot of work in it, but I'm not in it. I might talk reasonably like I knew what I was talking about, but there's nothing behind it but a vocabulary word, no knowledge or anything. right? So the idea is that this specific program is not about your company. This specific program is not about your industry. This specific program is only about you. So that the impact of this data, of this information, of this knowledge is your impact on it. So we're going to start with a really simple note-taking lesson. How many of you have your own notebook right now that you brought with you? Good, that's good. How many of you will use the little sheets of paper in front of you? Raise your hand. How many of you so far have written anything on one of those sheets of paper? Don't lie to me. You've actually written some stuff on those sheets of paper. That's pretty good because those are easily lost sheets of paper. They're gone, right? You'll tear them off, like you'll fold them and stick them in your pants, and they'll go through the washing machine and they're just gone. But they're the best we've got in front of us. So I'm going to help you maximize your note-taking in a really simple lesson. And this is called sketchnoting. And I'm going to give you 3 images that I want you to use the rest of the time that you are in Hawaii when you're taking notes. Got it? Here's the first image. I want you to sketch this. It's called an offset box. It's 4 lines. Sketch that now. Everyone in here can do 4 straight lines. Everybody got it? When you see this in your notes, it means what you've written down you think is important. An offset box always means important. So when you're looking through all of your notes and you see the box, you'll know that's important. You don't have to read all your notes. Just look for the box. Box will tell you it's important. Second image is a bubble, and it's really just a series of U's. Commonly referred to as a thought bubble or a cloud. It's just a series of U's. Every time in your notes you see that image, it will mean for you that this is an idea. That means idea, that means important. Now the last one is the hardest of the images. It's not really hard, but people freak out about it. I need you to draw a person. Now you can do a stick person like this, but that's horrible. You're way better than a stick person. Don't do a stick person, it's ridiculous. So I'll give you another one, a star person. A star person is a circle, triangle, 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 triangle. That's a star person. Draw a star person. Wait a minute, forget the star person. You can draw it if you want. I'll give you a box person. This is easy. Circle, rectangle, line, 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 line. You can draw a person that way too. These 2 are acceptable. That's unacceptable. Draw that. Anytime in your notes you see this, it means you want to pass it on to another person. If you want to do gender, you can also kind of gender this with triangles. Circle, triangle, triangle. Gender too if you want. That means you pass it on. So there's only 3 images you need to use. Offset box, it's important. Thought bubble, it's a good idea. Last one, I'm going to pass this on to some other people because I like the idea a lot. The reason we use this instead of words is because of what is called the picture superiority effect. And it's that when you're looking at a problem, it's better to see it. The brain processes an image 60,000 times faster than a word. 60,000 times. So why would you slow your gourd down? Why would you slow your processor down by writing words? Forget about it. You need to be thinking more image than words. So I've given you 3 really simple ones that you can use for the rest of your time here. And when you go through your notes, you'll find stuff just like that. There's the offset box, there's the bubble, there's the person. Everybody got it? So when I go by and look at your stuff later when you're not in the room and I start flipping through, I want to see these things. So you now have your first sketchnoting lesson, and you're going to take advantage of the brain's psychological picture superiority effect. Here's an even more interesting one. If I told you to write here, everybody write down the word circle. Anybody need spell check, or are you okay? Okay, circle. Then right below the word circle, draw a circle. At Harvard 3 years ago, they did a picture superiority impact test. And in 72 hours, they had one group, they said the word circle. And they gave them a bunch of other things. In the other group, they drew the picture circle. In 72 hours, they invited them back. Only 22% could remember the word. 67% remembered the image of the circle. Because the brain recorded it as a picture. Your brain records everything as a picture. What is your first name?
John.
John? Let me ask you a question. What did you have for dinner on a Friday night?
Sure.
No. Think of them.
You're gonna make me think.
Yeah, I am.
Pizza.
Pizza. When I asked Johnny the question, the first thing he did was look up. You weren't looking for what it tasted, what it smelled. You were looking for a picture of it because your brain stored it as a picture. So use pictures instead of words. You'll be way better at it. By the way, it's coming. It's dark in here now, and here it comes.
What is this thing?
It's an asteroid, sir.
How big are we talking?
Sir, our best estimate is 97.6 billion. It's the size of Texas, Mr. President. Yes, sir.
Dan, we didn't see this thing coming.
Well, our object collision budget's $1 million. That allows us to track about 3% of the sky.
Is this going to hit us?
We're efforting that as we speak, sir.
What kind of damage?
Damage? Total, sir. It's what we call a global killer. The end of mankind. Doesn't matter where it hits. Nothing would survive, not even bacteria.
I'm not saying what's coming is as bad as that. Kinda, a little bit. A little bit is kind of bad as that. It's the Armageddon plan that's coming. Now, here's the thing about disruptive technology. Disruptive technology has two pieces to the equation. The disruptive technology, which if it exists on its own, appears to be scarier than all the Armageddon asteroids hitting the Earth. But you have left out the second piece of the equation. The second piece of the equation is engagement. The disruptive element isn't as important as who is engaged in the disruptive behavior. Every element has two pieces to the equation at a minimum, right? We're working with Morgan Stanley on a project, and one of the guys keeps saying all the time about the number of new businesses started by women in America, minorities in America, and young people in America. It's an astronomical amount of the new businesses started. And after it was over, I went up to the speaker and I said, I have a single question. How many of those businesses started last more than 1 year? And he said 5%. 95% failure rate. See, the second piece of the equation isn't about as much how many are started, it's about how many survive, right? And this is kind of the way I'm looking at what's going on in your business. Here's the traditional sales model. There's a client, there's a sales professional, there's a product or service. If there's a wholesaler involved in it, there's another person involved in the middle. And here's the desire of what's going on in the world today. And it's that they want to eliminate any step between them and the product. Any step. They want those people out of the way. Now, if you sell stuff comes in a stuff container like this. This is a stuff container. It's delivered by a guy in little brown shorts in a brown van. And he drives up and he puts it on your doorstep. If you are delivering stuff, that's a death sentence. A death sentence to you. Everybody know why the arrow in Amazon goes from the A to the Z? Why? Because they sell everything from A to Z. That is why the arrow goes from the A to the Z. Now, Amazon is really good at what they do. They can get you, how many are Amazon Prime members? How many of you will look for a product, and there's the product you want, but it's not a Prime product. So you'll go to the product that's under it, which is just almost as good, and you'll get it because it's Prime. How many of you are Prime shoppers? That's called the Prime shopper in you. You'll disregard what you really want just for the Prime. Now, Amazon can get this to you in 48 hours in most places. In some places, they can get it to you in 4 hours. Now, I don't know what you need in 4 hours unless you're ordering a tourniquet. That you would need delivered to you in 4 hours. That you need marshmallow cream that bad in 4 hours. How many of you are Echo users? Raise your hand if you're an Echo user. Okay. Just wondering. We live on Lake Travis in Austin, Texas, outside of Austin. We don't have any stores near us, so Amazon is like the lifeline to stuff. But it's just stuff. They'll outsell anybody on the planet Earth, and in 2 more years, everyone else will be even less significant than they are now. They will outsell everybody in the market of stuff. But that's not your business. You've never been in the stuff business. Ever. The disruptive attitudes and things that are going on with stuff are insignificant to you. People will try to model stuff models. They'll try to model the daylights out of them all the time, trying to make them fit a service or thing you provide. Now, your success is not random. You're not, the reason you're here is not a random element of choices. It's a specific choice that you're here. A specific methodology that you've used. If you go to Las Vegas and play craps, it's the highest odds game in Vegas. But any physicist will tell you what the odds are of a roll of a 7, a roll of an 11, a roll of anything. The only variable is the amount of speed you put into the dice creating the roll. And we can figure out what that variable is almost every time. So we'll know what the odds are all the time. Playing craps is not random. It simply appears to the gamblers at sometimes as random. You have a very specific success formula. Our lives are not totally random. We make commitments. We cause things to happen. You are here because of that. Because of your ability and desire to cause something to happen. I am up here because of my desire to cause something to happen. To give you a look at what's going on. So, we all know the world is changing. It's not a secret. And by the way, we look at our yesterdays to determine our tomorrow. Every graph that you've ever seen, every bar graph, every pie chart, every Venn diagram, every one of those elements, in what time frame did that data happen?
Yes.
Every single time in the past. You can't draw a future graph. It's impossible, right? The idea of one light bulb, of a good light bulb being replaced by those crappy bulbs that don't give off any light, you know those ones? That say they last forever. If you put on a date on it, you'll find that that's not true either. They just give off crappy light. They're environmentally sound, but damn, I miss that light bulb that works real well, that I can actually see something in a closet with. I feel better, you know, you turn it on and you look up and you go, I feel pretty good about helping the environment, but I'd sure like to be able to see if I have a pair of pants in. We have experienced extinction events throughout history on this planet. 4 major extinction events we have experienced, in which at points over 90% of all the life on the planet has disappeared. Gone. Gone. The last one, the great meteor strike at the Yucatan Peninsula that ended the cold-blooded reptiles' rules of the planet, right? They were standing around going, is it getting cold out here, or is it just me? On it. And what survives? The tiny little mammals, the rodents running around in tiny little scale and size, end up being able to survive a massive extinction event. Happens all the time. It's coming again. It will come every time. In fact, if you were to be on the president's science team, and every year the science team looks at the 10 highest reasons or ways that humanity will end on the planet, number 1, every single year, is a strike by an object from space. Every single year. The odds go up higher. Let's talk about our revolutions that we are familiar with. These are extinction events in business. And I just picked one to start with. You could go back even further. Go back to the agricultural element. You can go back a long way. You can go back to the Romans and the Gauls. But I'm going to start with the Industrial Revolution. So the Industrial Revolution hits Europe. And in a very small amount of time, in less than 15 years, 55% of the people in the country moved to the city. 55%. It was the extinction of the country as the primary home, and into the cities they moved. In London in particular, they moved. And the cities weren't prepared for them. They had no idea what to do with all these people. It was a staggering infrastructure problem. It was an extinction event because people that did things by hand were rapidly being replaced by things that could be done by machines. It hit in Europe and it made its way to the United States. The first assembly line in the naval shipyards of London, not Henry Ford. Henry Ford automized it, he didn't create it. Just like he didn't make the car, Mr. Benz invented the internal combustion engine, right? Along lines like that. Right during the Industrial Revolution, the Electric Revolution is starting. During one extinction event, the next extinction event has already started. And then we have Benjamin Franklin's experimentation. He's the only scientist on money, by the way. We're the only country in the world that doesn't put our scientists on our currency. Ben Franklin is arguably a scientist. He was really smart. He was wicked smart on the stuff he did, but we don't value scientists very much. Faraday comes in, all these guys are coming in, they're doing everything. Edison is working on the light bulb. Edison, to this day, 789 US patents in Edison's name, the most in any single individual in the history of the planet. No one will ever catch Edison. He was one of the meanest humans on the planet. A junkyard dog of a human. Hardly ever slept. He was a diaxiom sleeper, so he'd sleep in little 15, 20-minute time frames. He was working on a bunch of things in teams. The phonograph was getting worked on. The movie projectors were getting worked on. The light bulb was getting worked on. It was the toughest of all of them. Couldn't get the filament right. Time and time again, the light bulb team failed on getting a filament that could hold an electronic charge in a vacuum. They didn't know what to do. Imagine this, you're on the record, you're on the phonograph team for Edison. You're playing the White Album already, and the guys in the light bulb are about 800 light bulbs away from making the damn thing work again. They can't, they don't know how to do it, right? It takes almost 1,000 tries to get the incandescent light bulb to light. 1,000 times. Edison's famous quote in the interview in the Saturday Evening Post was, how did it feel to fail 1,000 times? And he said, I have no idea. We built it in 1,000 steps. So I don't know what you're talking about. View failure differently. Like Edison for that, and that's the only reason you would ever like Edison. Jobs had a lot of Edison. I had the opportunity to work with Stephen when he was alive. Had a lot of Edison in him. Kind of a little junkyard dog meanness going on from time to time. And then who's this? Who's the other guy competing with Edison at the same time? This is Tesla. Tesla is really smart, but he's not as smart as the legends around Tesla are. There are tons of legends around Tesla that make him appear to be mystical at times. He was a really good electrical engineer who had no sales skills or business skills at all, died in poverty. But his ideas are what drove electricity to be expanded throughout the country, right? The way it's distributed. So now you're looking at the Industrial Revolution dissolving. The electrical engine is now picked up, so the steam engine is already obsolete. During its heyday, it's obsolete. Then we hit the next major revolution, the digital revolution. We start with TI starts with a transistor tube, right? It gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it is so small that in this greeting card is more data than you can imagine storing. There's a small motor in it, operating electrical lights. There's a recording embedded in a chip so small that it makes that chip look large. We've actually taken the digital revolution down to the greeting card, and it's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. You know, one of the only things that stops it from getting microscopic is put your hand out in front of you. Just put your hand out in front of you. There's only so much this can do, right? These digits can do as far as size and scale, that when you have to alleviate and leave the world of biology, the human biology and of your skeleton, you'll leave it. We are familiar with Armageddon events. They have happened time and time again, and they will continue to happen time and time again. But mostly they happen around stuff. So what about now, in the digital revolution, where you are being buried every day by this massive, massive amount of big data? You're being buried. You don't even know what's in it. Nobody hardly knows what's in it. It's ridiculous. What do we discover? Nothing is permanent in this wicked world, not even our troubles. So this idea behind it is that we make the same mistake over and over and over again. Everybody has in front of them a stick. Pick up your stick. Got your stick. Everybody pick it up. Hold it in the middle out in front of you. This is how you see time. You see it linearly, where there's a beginning to a project, a middle to the project, and end to the project. When you were young and in school, you had to do timelines of the War of 1812, of World War II, or whatever it was. You had to do timelines and show that time was moving in a linear fashion. It's ridiculous. Everybody take your stick and break it. Just break it. Time doesn't behave linearly. It never has. Now pick up your rubber band anywhere you want, like make a square. Just like that. Now twist the square. Move the square around. Expand the square. Contract the square. Change the shape of the square to a triangle. This is what time is. It's as flexible as this rubber band in front of you. It exists in only 2 places, not 3. You think of it as existing in 3 places. You think of it as having a beginning, a middle, and an end. You think of it having a past, a present, and a future. It doesn't. It has two pieces, the past and the future. The present is a fallacy of our biology. I'll give you an example. What is your first name? Jim. Jim, as you look at me, what color is the sports coat I'm wearing? Gray. Gray. As the light left this and went back to your eyes, and you saw it and you registered it, by the time you've seen it, it's in the past. You can never see anything in the present. It may be nanoseconds of time elapsed, but everything you do now is in the past. Everything. The only time frame that matters to us is tomorrow. Now, yesterday is meant for you to learn. That's why you have graphs and charts. That's why the lens of the future is through our past, as Davidson said, right? That's because it's the only lens we have. We only have a lens of yesterday to look at stuff, right? When you're circumnavigating the globe like Magellan, he only had the charts of yesterday to look at to get him started. Our yesterdays are important to us, but you guys are in the strangest business of all. You're in the tomorrow business. And there are very few companies that exist in this planet that are in your business. Very few. So how do we make this same mistake over and over again? We believe that we are momentary masters of a fraction of time. We do. That's why companies that do really, really well hang out really at the top for a long time, and then they're gone, and then they make a comeback. We're not masters of this time. We're members of a movement as time moves through it. You've got to know where you are in the movement, or you will fight to hold on to your now. Don't do that. Here's the same mistake. How many remember that? Did you ever wonder where that guy took a break? I always wonder, where does he go for a break? Is there a bathroom in there? Why does that guy do that all the time? And you would drop off your film there, and miraculously, a day later, it would be developed. How many of you remember this? This sound was a miracle to us at one point. You'd be waiting for it to finish its cycle, and you'd say, oh, I'm in. That gap of time to us was minuscule. It hardly existed at all to us, right? We didn't see it as some kind of a gap between data and information. We considered it a doorway that opened for us to access things that we never had access to before. Now, when you can't connect to the internet, you're angry, right? How many people struggled in their room a little yesterday? And you were going like this, what the hell? What the hell? What the hell? And then you would stop and you would think it's you, right? You would go, it's got to be the damn device, right? So you'd turn it off and you'd follow the Bill Gates methodology of rebooting when you never really needed to reboot, but you did it anyway because it made you feel like you were doing something. And then you'd be in for a little while and you'd be out for a little while, in for a little while. It's pouring down rain, you're going crazy. That's our connective nature, right, to the universe. We connect to the universe through our devices, through the internet. And the universe appears to us something that we're in control over. And when it leaves our control, we are angry. We are calling the front desk. What the hell's going on? Well, I don't know. I'll connect you to the internet help desk. No! No! Don't connect me to that person. Who was going to tell you, have you turned it on and off yet? Dude, yeah, I turned it on and off. So I'm going to give you the formula for where I see this industry going, your tomorrow-based business. I love when people say that I'm in the insurance business. That's not how I would describe what I do if I were you. There are three businesses that are in the tomorrow business. Financial advisors, insurance, medicine. All of those are designed for one thing and one thing only, to protect your tomorrows. Without those, you have no tomorrow. None. If you have no economic wherewithal, your tomorrow is very limited and it's terrifying. It's terrifying. You should be terrified because the majority of Americans don't have the financial wherewithal to have a tomorrow. It should terrify you. The second thing is if something bad happens and I'm unprotected, my tomorrow's gone. It's gone. My company's tomorrow's gone. My client's tomorrow is gone. All of this is gone. In medicine, if I can't get up in the morning, if I'm not ambulatory, if I can't think, my tomorrows are gone. You guys are in one of only 3 specific industries that protect my tomorrow. I have to have you. So I'm going to give you the formula that's going to battle the one-click Armageddon. So everybody get your pen and paper. I'll write this down immediately. Here it is. You just write that down. It's not that complicated. Just, no, that's not it. The real formula has 2 parts to it. You have to stay relevant, and you have to create value now. There are only 2 pieces to the formula. 2. My company is specifically set up and designed to simplify complex things. But business is not really complex. Where do you get revenue? Two sources: existing customers and new customers. That's it. Why would there be 10,000 white papers written every year around that subject? It's not that complex. It's really simple. Really simple. So I'm going to give you these two pieces. I'm going to help you understand and get them, but I'm going to need something from you. And the something I'm going to need from you is this. This is a Hoberman sphere. It's designed to show you the impact of energy, right? So right now it exists like this because there's no energy in it. But if I want to put energy in it, I can change its shape and form, pretty simply. So if I add this form of energy, which is what? Gravity, right? That's the number one form of energy in the universe, gravity. The sphere stays open because it's full of energy, right? If I roll it across the stage, I'm stepping over my line, I'm sorry. You got my line here, I can't step over, but I just violated it. I'm going to roll this across the stage. What kind of energy will it have? Kinetic, yes, very good. So I'm going to roll it across the stage, and when I roll it across the stage, when it runs out of its kinetic energy, it collapses again. This is how you are. So how many of you are morning people? Raise your hand if you're a morning person. How many of you are night people? Raise your hand if you're a night person. How many are not people? Just you know when you raise your hand, what you're telling me is your energy pattern, right? You're saying in the morning I'm really good, in the night I'm bad. In the morning I'm horrible, but as the day goes on I pick up pace, I'm really, really good, right? You're describing energy patterns. So if I were to tell you how to manage time, I would say manage them based on your energy patterns, not on what you have to do. That's insignificant. Measure on your energy pattern, right? So this little guy tells you that I'm going to need you to commit to energy into this idea. Energy into this idea. You are not selling stuff, so you have two things to do to combat people thinking you're selling stuff. The first is you have to stay relevant. Relevant to your clients. That means you have to be in contact with your clients. Davidson told you earlier that all of this technology is never going to replace a relationship. He's 100% right. In your industry, that's 100% right. If I work at Dillard's or Macy's, it's not so right. They'll get in more and more trouble in the aspect of selling stuff out of stick and brick stores. More and more trouble. But we still occasionally like to go to the mall, don't we? I mean, we occasionally like to go to a store and see something, try something on, play with something, then we go home and order it off of Amazon. Which is the problem, right? So how do we stay relevant? Number one, you have to eliminate redundancy. If I can get it somewhere else easier, I don't need you, period. In fact, not only do I not need you, I don't even want you if you can't eliminate that. So let's take a look at LegalZoom as an example of a disruptive and engaged technology, meaning it disrupted the legal industry because it had a high level and continues to have a high level of engagement. They average more than 70,000 new clients a quarter since 2011. 24% of all the LLC corporations in California are filed with LegalZoom. They average over 500,000 orders a year. Where did I used to go to get this? I went to my lawyer. Went to a law office to get it. Where did I go to get my will done? Went to a lawyer to get my will done. This is a disruptive element. And the reason being is that attorneys fail to recognize that they're not in the law business. They're in the protecting myself business. They're in my company's business. They're in my personal business. And when they fail to recognize that, these companies take over. Period. It's simply because they failed to recognize what business they were in, that they were impacted by this. If I can click to it, it's simple to find and easy to understand, I like that a lot. Does it mean I really understand it? No. How many people self-diagnose on Dr. What's it called? WebMD. Self-diagnose. Raise your hand. Something's wrong with you immediately. Da, 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 da. Oh my God. Oh my God. I've got Legionnaire's disease. Call your doctor. Doctor, I need an appointment now. I have Legionnaire's disease. Medicine is a very complex field. You guys have compliance issues, right? You have no compliance issues like the medical industry does. How many of you watch the USA Network ever? USA. You will notice that about more than half the ads on USA are pharmaceutical ads, for which the product's benefits are described in the first 30% of the commercial. The next 70% of the commercial is describing what? Horrific side effects. I mean, horrific side effects. You may get sausage fingers if you take this, or some ridiculous thing like that. The reason being is compliance requires them to say those things because the medicine deals with proteins, and proteins are fickle at times in how they react in the human body most of the time. If you're taking an antidepressant and the side effect is death, I will tell you, death is not a side effect. It's like, it's the effect. The effect is death. If it's listed as one of the side effects, that's troubling for that drug. Troubling on it. USA Network, everybody's depressed and erectile dysfunction and every other godly thing on it. If you watch the USA Network, I feel bad for everybody there. Easy to understand is not always the truth. So how many of you have sat with your clients, explained the coverage, looked at the client, and asked this question? Do you understand? And that client went just like this. And you say, you don't trust them. And you shouldn't trust them because they're blatantly lying to you. They're intentionally lying to you because they're embarrassed that they don't understand something that's so damn complex that it's this big. It's this big in writing. This big. It's ridiculous. It's this big. Did you read through the policy while I sent it to you? So you understand the exemptions in the policy, right? And you're ready to sign. And give me a check, a big old bucket of money. You're ready to give me a big old bucket of money, right? That's a bad sign if you're building a relationship. And the reason being is you build products now that are so complex that even you don't understand them all. How do you sell that? How do I trust you? How do I develop relevance and trust when you have created to sell me something that's so ridiculously complex that you don't even get it? It's a huge problem in your industry, isn't it? The ability to appeal to the emotional and intellect of your client in a methodology that connects them to you so they feel you are important to them. That I don't cross you off, I don't delete you out of my contact list. It's unbelievably important. Number two, you have to stay in touch. And I don't mean business in touch. Forget about business in touch. That happens naturally during renewal cycles. That's a natural occurrence for you. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about staying in touch with your clients, right? How many know what Pareto's Law is? Raise your hand if you know what Pareto's Law is. Enrico Pareto in 1867 was in Italy examining land grants, and he discovered that 80% of the land in Italy was owned by 20% of the people. You know it as the 80-20 formula. That 80% of your business comes from 20% of your clients. In your head right now, pick your two top clients. Nod at me if you have them in your head. It's not even noon yet. Hawaiian shirt guy right there. Do you have yours?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is your first name?
Mike.
Mike, I'm going to ask you a question about one of your people, okay?
All right.
Does he have all his hair?
No.
Does he wear glasses?
Yes.
Is he more comfortable in a suit or shorts and flip-flops?
Suit.
Is he married?
Yes.
Do you know his wife's name?
No.
Does he have children?
I don't know.
Where does he live?
Southern California.
Southern California. You got almost every one of those right. We know a lot about our top clients, don't we? The people that are really, really important to us. How do you stay in touch with that person outside of your business? If you don't have a plan for that, your relevancy is slipping away as we talk right now. If I knew where a client went to college and they were important to me, I would subscribe to Google their college. And anytime a new piece of news came up, I'd cut and paste it and send it to him. I said, you see, you guys got a new football coach. Congratulations. He did a great job at the University of Arkansas, or whatever it was. I would send that to him. If I knew his primary hobby was riding his big old Harley, noisy, obnoxious Harley Davidson around the streets in the country, I'd Google Harley Davidson. I'd let him know what's going on with that company because that's a passion to them. So what is your connecting point for staying in touch? A little emotion, please. A little emotion. I want you to touch me beyond the client. I want you to touch me in something that's a little emotional to me. Clark was gracious enough to invite me back again this year to do 2 programs for you. I know a lot about Clark. I know Clark's movie taste, I know his music taste, I know his travel taste, I know his wife's travel taste and movie taste. I know where they come into conflict on those two things. Yeah, and it's important to us to know these things. I know a lot about Jill, I know a lot about David. I know a ton about David because David and I have the same taste in music. These things are important to us for our clients. If it wasn't for Clark, I would not have 5 other IIAB clients. Period. Clark put out a few good words, and the next thing you know is we're getting calls from all the IIAB people to come and do presentations and programs for them. We just did Why We Love the Movie. We're going to do Why We Love the Movies, which we did for you guys 2 years ago, for a city that one of the IIAB members is on the city council for. So we're going to go into their convention center and do it for everybody in the city. All of that because, A, we deliver a good product, but B, it's because we know about our people. We know more about them than we know about a penny. You should too. Next, the third part of relevance. Get rid of bad ideas. Immediately. They are taking up way too much space for you. So how do you know that? It's quite simple. How many of you are list makers? Raise your hand if you make lists. Oh, come on, we all make lists. Everybody should raise their hand everybody's a list maker. In fact, we love our lists so much, we like to compare them to other people's lists. How long is your to-do list? Oh, my to-do list is, mine's this long. I haven't taken a vacation in 3.5 years. That's my favorite stupid thing for someone to say, right? Why? Are you kidding me? Look at my to-do list. It's epic, it's biblical, it's way more than the 10 Commandments. It's big, right? It's kind of a ridiculous aspect of how people think about stuff in order to stay relevant. You have this master list of the stuff that you do. And I'll bet that if we sat down in your company and pulled everybody into the team in, and we did a master list, I'll get it. We're making a master list of all the stuff that we do for our clients, unrelated to the business. Personal stuff that we do to our clients. Coming to Hawaii for our clients. We would discover in that list stuff that we shouldn't be doing anymore. Well, I don't even know why we're doing it anymore. Companies do things that they don't even know why they're doing them anymore. Special value add programs that have been on books for 10 years that nobody gives a damn about. Even the person receiving it doesn't care about. But it's on the book, so they keep doing it because they don't know. You know, if you did a simple listening element, you would come in and say, we are not doing that anymore. We are not doing that anymore. We are not doing that anymore. And guess what you've just done? You've freed up 3 spots for something new. Get rid of the ugly. Every new idea, think about a zero-based closet. You have a closet at home, right? You're buying a new blouse or a new shirt. You come in, you buy it, you dig it, you love it, right? You've been to wherever to get it, and you hang it up in your closet. And then you take out another one, and you get rid of it. This is it's called a zero-based closet, right? Something new comes in, something old goes out on it. That's what this is. This is a zero-based benefit list for what you're doing. And if you want to stay relevant, you have to get rid of the stuff that's irrelevant. And you have a bucket load of irrelevance. Guaranteed, if you went through the effort of really looking at what you were doing. And then you have space that opens up for the new ideas. The way that you can connect with people at a higher level. Perhaps it's starting a blog. Perhaps it's starting a video. Perhaps it's doing a new newsletter format so that you can stay in touch with someone. We're approaching 20,000 people get our newsletter every month. 20,000 people get it. That's our push piece. That's how we stay in touch with new ideas. We send everybody 1 idea a month. Push it out. If you want a poll, you got to come in and read the blog. The blog is you got to come to the website to get the blog. You don't get it pushed out. We have probably 5,000 blog readers. I think that's what the last count, 5,000, right? Those are things that we do to stay relevant. We get rid of bad ideas. We did a podcast for a while. It sucked. It was horrible. Got rid of the podcast. Though I think we're bringing the podcast back. We added a video to our newsletter, a 3-minute video called Over Coffee. Every month you get a little 3-minute idea in there. That was a great idea. Not only was it disruptive for the way we had done things, but it's a high engagement level from our clients. Right? We'll give everybody a newsletter. If you want a newsletter, just let us know. We'll send you a newsletter. I'm also going to send you a summary of this program for those of you who haven't written anything down. I've watched you. I've been watching. I've been looking for an offset box, a thought bubble, maybe a little person. You didn't do that, I'm going to help you out a little. So now you have these 2 elements. You have value, You have relevance. I've given you the 3 steps of relevance. You should have the 3 steps of relevance down. I'm going to jump into value, but before I do that, I want to build a small bridge between the two for you. And I want to tell you what you really sell. What the one thing you really sell is. The one thing you really sell is insight. You see, I can't get that from a website. I can only get that from another person. Insight is the emotional connection to your expertise, to your knowledge. And I'm in desperate need of it. And if you were selling me insight, I wouldn't go anywhere else. You'd be the only guy I'd go to. I've had the same financial advisor for 25 years. He's done an outstanding job for my family. At the beginning, he wasn't real good at insight. He came and did the standard quarterly thing that was horrible. My wife wouldn't go to the meetings. I was forcing myself to sit through the meetings until finally I said, John, you're horrible at this. And he goes, I've been a financial advisor for decades. And I said, I don't care, you're horrible at it. So I'm going to help you. And I gave him one sheet that had 3 columns to it. A green column, a red column, and a yellow column. I said, I want every one of my investments in one of those 3 columns every time we meet. I want the green column, doing great, don't worry about it. Red column, we need to talk about. Yellow, good potential, we should talk about yellow too. If you'll do that for me, you'll be sharing insight with me. Because the products are already there. I don't need you to tell me about them. I already bought it. Insight is perspective. This is really all you've built in your career, isn't it? Think about it. What is the value of all of your professional knowledge? What is the value of everything that you have that connects to the product and the person? You know what the value is? Insight. That you can help me understand a need and a complex product. And you can do it so that I trust you. And if you can do that, let me tell you about the robo-advisors. And let me tell you about the websites. They will be critically important to you to know and be aware of, just like Davidson said. But you will not build your business on them. You will not build your business on them. You will build your business on insight. And if you give me that, I will flock to you. I will never let you go. I will hold on to you for 25 years like I did my financial advisor. I will hold on to you for that long. And don't talk to me about the renewal period. I don't care about the renewal period. I care about you helping me understand what we're doing here and that we have somewhat of a partnership on it. This is what you do. You run through all of this maze so that I don't have to. And as a maze runner, I need your help to get here, because if you don't do this for me, guess what you're going to see from me? You're going to see this. Game over. Game over. And you know it as well as I do standing here. I have not told you one thing so far today that you didn't already know. Not one. I just think you're not focused on it. I think your focus is in the wrong place. And this program is designed to focus you differently. So, here's the second part of the puzzle. I've given you relevance, now I'm going to take you to value. Over to this side of the equation. Stay relevant, create value now. So what is value now? Well, you have to be in a nucleus of need, and we're terrible at being in a nucleus of need. The reason is, we cannot estimate anything. Anything. And you know this. How many of you have ever estimated a project and it took 5 times longer than you thought it would? Raise your hand. It took 3 times longer than you thought it would. Raise your hand. Every project we screw up our estimates on, don't we? Our inability to estimate impacts us. We can't do it. We don't. How many of you have ever gone to a hotel, gone up to the concierge and said, I'd like to go to a Mexican restaurant tonight? And they say, oh, there's a great Mexican restaurant. It's about a 5-minute walk. What? It's a 5-minute walk. Go out of the hotel, hang a right. It's going to be about a couple minutes down on your right. So 30 minutes later, you're on the death march of Bataan. You're going, where's Mexican food? Mexican food, right? You know why? The person at the desk couldn't estimate it. Didn't know how to estimate. That inability to figure out how time relates to everything. And it's gigantically important in value, because time is the only important element in your business. It's the future time frame, right? Your inability to estimate makes you horrible at being able to create value around that aspect. So look at the, how do I create a nucleus of need if I have no idea how to estimate what your need is? You don't. You struggle. There's the technology side and the human side. You need both of those. Davidson even told you that. You need to be aware of what's going on in technology. It needs to feed the humanity. It doesn't need to stand apart from the humanity. It needs to feed the humanity. Einstein said, I fear that the day technology surpasses our human interaction, the world will have a generation of idiots. Of idiots. I was watching this, I don't mean to pick on this guy. Well, I do mean to pick on him. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to pick on this guy. He's the starting quarterback for the, now the Los Angeles Rams. Is his last name Goff? Yes. Did you, if you watched the HBO program Hard Knocks, he was on the Hard Knocks, and they asked him, you know what question they asked him, right? Who knows the question they asked him that he didn't know the answer to? In what direction does the sun rise? And he looked and he said, what do you mean? And they said, what direction does the sun rise on the planet? North, south, east, or west? And he goes, it doesn't really matter. And they go, no, it matters. It matters. He didn't know the answer. So he tried to backpedal. Instead of just saying, I don't know where it is, he dug a deeper and deeper hole for himself, right? He went in and looked it up online. You saw him, next thing he was on the thing, he was looking it up on Google. Rises and got it. Went back and told the guy, another guy come up and said, the sun doesn't rise at all, the earth rotates. What? He went, what? This is because you cannot rely on technology all your life, right? Everybody in your business wants that certain someone. That's what they're looking for, is that certain someone in you. And sometimes what you need is just a little magic for them. Here's the deal. Every time we see a magician, almost every time, we go, oh, wow, you're kidding me, you'll say. And a guy will do it right in front of you. Right in front of you, he'll do the magic. And you'll go, you've got to be kidding me, right? It's a sense of awe and wonder, right? That little bit of magic, awe and wonder, is a really good goal for you to look at in creating value to your client. The fact that I can create just a sense of magic in what I do for them. Just a sense of impact beyond the scale and scope of the written product. If I can figure out how to do that, you know what I have? I have a connected chain to my client. He's going to come all the time for that little bit of awe and wonder. That little special bit that you can do. Now, what is that special bit? I don't know. I can't tell you right now. But each and every one of you have it in there somewhere as a strategy. So that we go into a company and we help them design client appreciation models and elements like that. We're always looking for a bit of magic. Just a little bit to create value along those lines. Second part of value, embracing knowledge. You are the keepers of it. You have more than anyone else has in it. I don't have it, your client doesn't have it, the carrier doesn't. You have the knowledge of the product, but that's not the knowledge I'm talking about. The knowledge I'm talking about is this kind of knowledge, in which the knowledge is connected to the client. Not this knowledge that you hold and possess like some kind of one of the Greek oracles. No, it has to have this. It has to connect to the client. If your knowledge doesn't connect to the client, I don't care about it, right? So I have to have this knowledge embedded in you. I have to have it connect, or it's meaningless to me. So how do you do that? How do you embrace your knowledge? This idea of the stuff that you have that becomes more and more valuable as you move along. It's really, really important. It builds a better you. You know how you do it? You come here to this meeting. That's one way you build knowledge. You subscribe to publications. You get continuing education credits. You do all of those elements that make you bigger. And every year, every single year in October, you should plan your next year's knowledge tree. What am I going to do to get better at what I do? I'm going to take a class in presentation skills. I'm going to take a class in interpersonal communication. I'm going to learn how to create images. I'm going to learn how to sketch. I'm going to learn how to do all of these things because that's how your knowledge is built. And it is the one thing you have control over. You don't have control over the market. You don't have control over hard and soft elements of that market. You know what you have control over? The thing I told you at the very beginning. You have control over you. You. If you're not building a better you, I'll go to someone who is. I want you to write down these 3 questions. The first question is, what do I do? Second question is, what value do I bring? And the third question is, how am I different? If you can answer those 3 questions, you have the foundational elements of building a client experience different from anybody else in what you do. Can you tell me in a creative manner, in a methodology that says, this is what I do, and not say that I sell insurance? Can you tell for me the value you will bring to our relationship? And can you tell me how you're different from everybody else who's doing the damn same thing you are? If you can do those three things, you will build what we call the experience. It's magical. And those are the only three questions that you ever have to answer. If I were working with your company and we were working on story, building a story, a new story for you, those are my three foundation points for story. I'd say, tell me how you answer those questions. We'll build our story differently. We were working with the top 17 female financial advisors in America. And we were working on the classic 6-word story exercise that Ernest Hemingway started. Hemingway was at a cocktail party, liquored up on daiquiris like he usually was, and he bet somebody $100 he could write a 6-word novel. And they said, I got $100 that you can't write a 6-word novel. Next night they're sitting around drinking, he goes, 6-word novel. For sale. Baby shoes. Never worn. And they looked at him, and out came the $100 from everybody. So we take people through a 6-word exercise. One of the women in the group wrote this as her 6-word exercise. You will sleep on windy nights. And I said, that's a magical phrase. That means that no matter what happens, I don't have to worry because you're managing my money for me. No matter how windy it gets, I will sleep at night. I said, that's a brilliant 6-word line. You know where it came from? Here's where it came from. What do I do? What value do I bring? And how am I different? And from that exercise, if you look at our business cards or our brochure right now, it says, you will sleep on windy nights. That's our new tagline from it. Perhaps no one does this better than Disney. No one. 31 years ago when I started this company, my very first client was the Disney company. And they've been a client of ours for 31 years now. I'm pretty intimate in my knowledge of how they do things, all the way from working with Pixar, all the way with working with Marvel, through a lot of machinations in the company. And so for them, it's a formulaic approach to the client experience, right? So remember when I told you this program's about you? Here's how you relate to your client, right? I control my skills, I control the client experience. That's it. The only two things I control. Me and what I build for my client. And what does the experience look like to you? And I'll bet you right now that you don't know. I'll bet you don't. I'll bet you don't know what the overall experience looks like. And I'll show you how you don't know. Right now, write down every single point of contact for you with your client. How many ways can the client get you? Points of contact. The telephone, can they call you? Point of contact. Can they email you? Point of contact. Can they get you through your website? Point of contact. Can they get you through a referral? Point of contact. Those are all points of contact. How many points of contact do you have? The average person probably has 6 to 8. Tell me about this. Have you looked at every one of those lately? Have you looked at every single one of those lately? What does it look like when I do one of those things? Is the experience high? Is the experience low? What is the value in your points of contact? Most people don't look at them. They never look at them. Person walks into the office, what's your office look like? What's your waiting room look like? What does the point of contact look like? When I meet with my client, what does that point of contact look like? That's the starting point for building your client experience. So think about Disney, right? Disney's the first person to create and use the circuitous line for waiting for a ride. It goes like this, right? Here's the ride. Here's where the person comes into the ride. Now, if this line were straight, you would never get in line. It would look horrible to you. It would be gigantic. But here you only see the line here. I'm going to help you along. I'm going to put a little sign up here. Put a little sign right here. It says if you're here, it's 60 minutes to the ride. Put a sign right here, 45 minutes to the ride. I'm going to put a sign right here, it's 30 minutes to the ride. I'm going to put a sign right here, it's 10 minutes to the ride. I'm walking through. What does every single person do when they see that sign? Yeah, they do. What do? Tell me. They check their watch. If they wear a watch, if they don't, they check their cell phone. They go like this. Okay, 60 minutes, Walt. We'll see about that. When they come to here, The time difference between here and here is what? 15 minutes, right? But they're going to be here in 10 minutes or less. What do they do when they see this sign? They look at their watch again. And they say, hey, it wasn't 15 minutes. It was only 10 minutes. I'm 5 minutes ahead. They come down to here. This distance is really only 10 minutes, not 15 minutes. Every single time they pick up time. They pick up time. Disney knows that it isn't 15 minutes between there. Every one of those signs is a lie. They know it's a lie. They intentionally lie to you so that you feel better when you get here. That's managing point of contact. All the way down to every single detail. Let me sum up for you and finish this. Technology is coming, it's here, it's going to come. It came in the Industrial Revolution, it came in the Electrical Revolution, it's coming in the Digital Revolution, it's going to continue to come. Revolutions are revolutions, they come all the time. Don't worry about it. You should be knowledgeable of it. You should figure out where you can leverage it. But it is not the pinnacle of what you should be paying attention to. The pinnacle of what you should be paying attention to is insight in relevance and value. If you build that model, your customers are not going anywhere. Instead, they're coming to you. They're not leaving, they're coming. It's a simple equation. Requires a staggering amount of effort, a staggering amount of energy. But it's the only equation that matters in your industry. The only one that matters. You need to be the most important person in your client's life in protecting their tomorrows. You are in the tomorrow business. Build your philosophy around that. Thank you very much.